WelTool has a new specialized flood inspection style light with the new M7 I've got here in front of me. The light takes an 18650 battery and has an aspherical lens, creating a super even beam with hard cut-off edges. This is a specialized light, so let's take a quick look at it and its use cases. Thanks to WelTool for sending this one for me to take a look at. As a reminder, guys, I've got a Facebook page, a Patreon, Twitter, Instagram. If you're not following any of those, make sure you are so you can keep up with what's coming up and any other news in the industry. Here is the packaging that the WelTool light comes on. It's a red cardboard box, WelTool branding here on the front. It's a box that's designed to fit multiple models with nothing referencing the W7 or the M7 here at all. Inside we find the manual, what I can presume is kind of like a birth card or warranty card, certificate of quality, a letter from the president of the company. The light fits in there and you get a spare O-ring and that's it. The light also comes with a WelTool branded 18650 battery that I've got installed in the light right now, as well as the pocket clip that's installed in the light too. I'll put in a screenshot here, but WelTool may have overdone it with their Thesaurus in writing the description of the light, and both making their website and on the Amazon listing. In my opinion, it detracts from the light overall, and it just makes it look silly. Less like a tool and more like a marketing stunt. WelTool should really hire a native English speaker to make sure everything they're saying translates well and the meaning comes over and isn't filled with just 100% buzzwords. One of my favorite examples of this is the kind of slogan here on this light, Eyes of Heaven General. On the website and in the manual and Amazon listing, they expand on that and says, Eyes of Heaven General. The eye of wisdom will wash over your hard work and pour your heart into. To me, that's just funny. It doesn't mean a lot. It doesn't advertise the flashlight. It's just words to somehow describe this tool and make you want to buy it. I don't get it, but I just prefer if WelTool remove those from the product altogether. Construction. The light's made of aluminum. It's hard anodized black. Pretty good here. Not really any major problems. I did notice a little bit of problem on just these two edges of the anodizing. It looks like it's come off. I don't know if that's maybe where it rubbed during shipping, or this one just has a slight flaw. Starting at the tail cap here, you can see it's got a very proud button, and it says only 18650 available. Again, translation problems. And if we look further down, we've got a little bit of knurling on the tail cap there. It's nice knurling, no problems there. It's fairly grippy. Threads are nice. When I unscrew it here, you've got an O-ring. They are anodized. You've got just a simple spring here. While I've got it apart, here's the battery, just a WelTool 2600 milliamp hour, kind of low milliamp hour for what it is. It is USB rechargeable, button top and protected. The clip attaches to the body here in the head down position. The clip makes a decent effort here for reasonably deep carry. You've got about 29 millimeters of the light sticking out when you've got it in your pocket. Not too bad. It's pretty stiff. It does rotate around the light if you like and does come off, but it's not installable in the front of the light. The body and head here are one solid piece, do not come apart. The head grows slightly in diameter here, and then we've got this nice anti-roll ring. This does a nice job for the most part. The light still will roll, of course, but it sits and stays put fairly nicely. The front bezel here itself is plastic. Then you see that big lens there. There is no reflector, and the LED is there in the center. One thing about the construction of the light here, the saying here, this Eyes of Heaven, which I don't care for, is crooked on my light. Not sure how well you can see that in the video. I measured the length of this light at 118 millimeters, maximum diameter at 29 millimeters, minimum diameter at 22 millimeters, weight with the included battery clip at 122 grams. The light is only IP67 water rated, meaning it can survive a drop into a water up to 1 meter, but is not IPX8 like we commonly see. So for the LED, the make and model isn't mentioned. Instead, they call it X LED, which a Google search doesn't show an LED manufacturer under that name. My guess is this is something like a Cree XML series, and it's a pretty cool white. As I mentioned before, the beam here is very round and very even. This one actually shows up on my video lights pretty well. In this mode, it's very consistent, very even due to that acrylic aspherical lens. It has no hot spots, and it really floods with very little throw. The cutoff is pretty hard around the edges too. Hey guys, just wanted to show you kind of what this is like as task lighting. I'm here in my basement in front of my electrical panels, you can probably see here. And the light's probably 4 feet away, 3-4 feet away from the panel. And I'm gonna step in the way here and open up the panel. But you can kind of see, this works pretty decently as a task light. You can get up close, this is on low, so about 170 some lumens. And this works decently if you need to flip a switch and get your panel back on or something like this. It's a nice broad beam from this distance. Here is high. It's more light than I need for something this close. But if I even back off more to the distance the camera is, which is about 4 feet again, you can see it does a nice job lighting things up. You can see that cutoff though is very hard. If I switch back down low, very hard cutoff. Again, this is a pretty niche light, and it works good for something like this, maybe reading, but not great for EDC. Here is the WelTool M7 out on my deck for kind of my normal typical beam shots. Here it is on low, 137 lumens. You can see it's not a ton of light, but it's a massive flood beam here. The light's only a couple feet off the ground, and we can see it's a big, big beam. If I pan up, it just doesn't go very far, but it's got that huge cutoff. If I bump too high here, a lot more light, about 350 some lumens if I remember correctly, but it doesn't throw. You can just barely see the fence. To the naked eye, it's a little bit better, but still, this isn't the flashlight you'd use to go look for your dog in the backyard. But if I look up, pan up to a big tree that I've got right next to me, you can see it does a great job of lighting that up. That hard cutoff again. It's just not a light designed to go distance or throw at all. The light uses a constant current and has no PWM, which is nice. The output curve is pretty steady with no thermal or timed step downs. Its brightness varies with the discharge profile of the battery. Total runtime I saw was about 120 minutes, and my runtime graphs might not be entirely accurate due to a normal battery that mine shipped with. More on that in the recharging section. And I measured the parasitic drain at 3.6 microamps. The UI in this light is incredibly simple. You have two modes, low and high. By default, the light comes on in low mode at 114 lumens, and you click off, you click again, you get high at 353 lumens according to WelTool. You can do a full press like I'm doing here, or once on you can do a half press like I'm doing here just to change between the two. There is memory, so if you start on low, it'll start on high. And there's no strobe or anything like that. So as I mentioned, this light does have USB recharging on the battery itself. And I seem to have received a little bit of a defective battery with a defective charging circuit or protection circuit. My low voltage protection kicked in at 3.44 volts, and it reported as fully charged via the USB cable at 4.06 volts. I confirmed with WelTool that these are not normal behaviors. As I mentioned before, the battery that ships with the light is USB rechargeable. It's only 2600 milliamp hours. I'd really like to see WelTool include a 3000 or 3500 milliamp hour battery in 2019 at this price point for this light. Really, the price difference between the two, especially in bulk, is minimal So it added a nice amount of runtime and just add overall more value for the customer. So for me, the pros are, it makes a really nice even beam for up close work, maybe reading or short range inspection tasks. It's really very even, by far the most even light I have of any flashlight. I like that it starts on low, and it's really got a pocket clip that carries surprisingly deep, and it surprised me. The cons for me are low capacity 2600 milliamp hour battery, and in my tests had a pretty narrow range of operation. I'd like to see an additional low mode for really up close reading work. 130 some lumens is just too bright for those tasks. I'd like to see a magnet in the tail. Obviously you'd have to do something with a button there, but this type of light I feel like would be really useful as a like under the hood car inspection type light, especially in high, if it had a magnet to stick to your hood. And in my opinion, at the time of filming here, the light seems a bit expensive for what you're getting for what it is. That being said, it's not a bad light, it's just I feel like it's kind of expensive for a niche product. My conclusion is this is a specialized niche light for a specialized purpose. I can see this being useful for close inspection work, maybe like an electrical panel, like I did in my example, or work within a few feet of you to provide some light while working on something close to your hands. Although a headlamp is my choice for work where I'm using both my hands. This isn't going to be the best choice for a general purpose light to use while camping, walking the dog, EDC use, stuff like that. My example here has a few aesthetic issues with the anodizing, as I mentioned, and the label that's crooked there. These are things that can be fixed easily. I might just have had a bad example there. For me, the labeling and writing of the marketing and technical details really are not something that vibe with me. Everything has been written in a grandiose fashion, and it doesn't seem to be translated to English very well. This is pretty easy for WelTool to fix as well, and I encourage them to tame it down on future lights and to stick to the facts that flashaholics and the general consumer need when purchasing a light, and just cut out all the fluff. If you need a light with a super floody beam for short distance work, this is a pretty decent choice. But for most people, for most uses, a more conventional beam pattern with a bit of hot spot, a little bit more throw, will be more useful in general, in my opinion. I feel like in terms of value at the time of writing, the WelTool M7 is a bit expensive for what you're getting for most people, but a decent light out of it. As a reminder, guys, follow my social media. Make sure you follow the Facebook page, the Instagram, check out Patreon. We're still waiting for our first Patreon subscriber, so maybe you can be one of them. As always, let me know what you think of this light in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer any questions you have on it. Make sure to check the description for a link on where you can pick this up on Amazon if you're so interested. Thanks for watching.